My name is Bina Abling and I'm working on some more rendering videos here, and I wanted to get to the basics and then really move on to some more fabulous, interesting designs with cultural heritage. So if I've got the basic checks, window pane, herringbone, and these are kind of like black and white fabrics, and I'm going to move in black and white design today. A check, I'm going to organize the check to really have just like squares, alternating squares. That's what the check would be. This window pane, the window pane would be something with little darker centers, and I'm working with basic markers and pencils here. So I would cross this fabric over and it would get darker in the center. And houndstooth is really kind of fun. That's a different print, and that's squares again, but not alternating squares. Like these are squares in a row, and these squares get little tails and little arms, and when you do that, they make almost a little star inside. And that's how you know that you've got a herringbone print. That's a really oversized one, but it's kind of fun to see what that print does. This is herringbone, houndstooth, and the herringbone, I'm going to take that and just make all of these angles come and connect to each other and work this through. And that's a really pretty simple print. It's just that each print has its own name. Each print is different, so I'm working that through. And after we've done like basic fabrics, the fabrics that are classics, then we can move on to some really more cultural heritage, fashion-forward fabrics. And I've got these, like they come from VooVoo Designs. And they're very interesting fabrics because they have a historical relevance. They're sustainable, socially conscious fabrics, and they've got a pedigree, and it's kind of fun to work with these. So let me show you some of these prints. Again, still working almost black and white. Now, I'm not going to get the texture. This has got this wonderful kind of surface interest, but I am working with the swirl. And taking a look at that swirl, and it's a double color swirl, I've got it kind of worked out here. And then I take it with my marker, and I work out how many repeats there are. What is the connection from one side of the print to the other side of the print, and I will try to work it to the outside edge, to the inside edge, and work with this print. And then when the color changes on the print, I flip over my markers, and now I'm working through the other print motifs and the other colors. And I take my color and I work it again from the center. Now I work with the number 2 pencil, a soft lead, a 2B, so you will see that showing up through my marker. But if you were home and you were rendering, you would be using probably a 2H or a 4H pencil, and that would not show up. You would not see it under the marker because a harder lead, an H lead, would disappear under the marker. I'm doing this so you can see it. So now I'm kind of like I've got my bag, I've got my little print. I've changed the color, but it's the motif that you're looking at, and this is the way to lay it all out for yourself so it happens quickly. So that's one simple. This is the swirl print. It's a beautiful heritage print, and now I'm working on a different print, and this print is just really fascinating to me because it's kind of like this southwestern American Indian pottery print from Anasazi, and it's got a lot of influence from the American Indian in this print. It's a beautiful black and white. How would we do this though? It's so complex, and it's got a much more, I would say, difficult repeat than our first one, right? So now we're developing sections. We've got to lay this out and plan it out. What is the biggest part of the print that I have to do? What is the smallest part of the print? What is the repeat in the print? And here I am, and I'm working on this print, and I have a couple of ways that I can do it. I can work it out so that is to look here and say, oh, the black goes like this. And I work to my edge, and I create my shapes, and I look at my repeats, and I work out what happens with these repeats, and then I would finish my rendering and understand that that is how I get my print to work. And where it turns white, where it turns black, it's a lot of fun. These prints are just fascinating to me because they have that historical relevance. Now, we worked from a simple print, you know, where I just have to do half and half, and I work into quadrants and all of these other areas that I've got to fill in the repeats and kind of like map it out and really work out the print in the sense that this is geometric almost. And then another print, there's another print, this is really fascinating to me. This print here is called Standing Water Print, and now I can really see the weave, you know, and it changes, you know, from the white, the blue, we're past the black, but on the same way, this is a single color. So what we can do with that is here, I'm working out this print, and this is the most complex of the 3 prints from VooVoo Designs that we've seen so far. And in this handbag, now I've got to really map out the center, I've got to map out shape. After shape, I've got to map out repeat. After repeat, and I know what my center is, now I have to work on my sides. So I was going to show you this bag, which just, again, they fascinate me because they're so gorgeous. Take a look at what's happening here. I've got surface interest and I've got a print. I can't quite do both in a small sketch like this. I'm not doing fabric design, I'm doing fabric rendering. So I take this and I say to myself, all right, I've got this beautiful, beautiful blueprint. What is the repeat? What am I looking at here? And I probably would start in the center and try to work my way through this design and figure out how to create the angles and the shapes and the volume of color that I need for this pattern in this rendering. And can I get those little sharp edges with my marker? I get as close as I can. And the last part of it is taking it and looking at this. Now I can kind of get to weave. I can get this part over here we talked about, you know, where I can really see the weave and the color starts to separate. This is it. I'm just going to work it like that. And what the fun of this is just really getting into rendering.